Mike Salemi here, performance coach, and today I'm so stoked because I got something special for you. I'm going to introduce you to a new kettlebell exercise. I'm calling it the Kettlebell Countered Sling Shot. Fantastic total body rotational movement that no one's doing out there yet. So check it out. You're the first to see it. Let's go. Now, if I were to pick the most necessary plane of movement that is absolutely critical to be successful in most all sport, work, and life environments, it's going to have to be the rotational plane or the transverse plane. But interestingly enough, it's probably the plane, or is the plane, that gets trained the least. That and side-to-side movement, which is why when it comes to rotational movements, there's specific tools that tend to lend themselves really well to rotational movements, but also ones that aren't really built for rotational movements. For example, a barbell is not designed for rotational movement. Fantastic tool, fantastic implement, especially if you're trying to develop 1 rep maximal strength. But if you want rotation, some of the other tools tend to be a little bit better. Now, when we look at kettlebells, which is one of the best, if not the best tools for functional movement, for freedom of movement through multiple planes and multiple patterns, even with the kettlebell, a lot of times performing rotational movements can be challenging and does require a higher level of technical skill, which is why I wanted to introduce you to this movement. Honestly, it is, I think, one of the best, if not the best, rotational movements you can do with the kettlebell. You're going to get side-to-side movement, you're going to get some explosive dynamic rotation, and right now we're going to break down 4 progressions right into the movement. So, progression number 1 is our figure 8. The way we're going to start with this movement is, I like to line the kettlebell in line directly with the center of the shin on either side of the leg, whichever leg you want to start with. Then from here, you're going to hinge from the hips, make sure the spine is nice and long. I want you to grab outside the kettlebell handle. This space is going to be created so that way, as I'm passing the kettlebell through the legs, I've got room for the opposite hand to grip. So I'll start here, make sure my shoulders are set, and I'll pass the kettlebell through the legs. Normally, right now I'm looking at the camera, but normally I tilt my chin down just to maintain a more neutral head and neck alignment, but you'll just practice the coordination of this movement. Once you've done, I would say, at least 20 seconds of work, then you can set the kettlebell down, shake it out, and rest. So, progression number 2 now. Progression number 2 is essentially the figure 8 component, but then we're going to go into a standing lift or a standing movement. So we'll start in the exact same way. We'll hinge the hips back, we'll grab to the outside of the kettlebell handle, but now as you pass the kettlebell through the legs, you'll stand up. So you'll pass and stand, utilizing the legs to drive the body into the upright and vertical position. Once again, about 15 to 20 seconds will be fine. The kettlebell's fairly light. This is only 12 kilos. We're going to be working into a power movement, so it's much more about the speed and the quality of the movement than it is, for example, going heavy. So that is our figure 8 with our standing component. Progression number 3. Now we're going to incorporate the counterbalance component with an uppercut. So once we pass the kettlebell through the arm, if the kettlebell is in my left arm, I'm going to counterbalance and shift on the left leg. Then I'll stop the kettlebell by bracing it or pausing it with my opposite hand. I'll come down, pass through the legs, counterbalance, and pass. The lower body movement on this is pretty much side to side. So you can think of it almost like a mini side lunge. Also, when you're performing this, my knee's going to be coming forward. So from here, I'm not so much sitting back in this position. I'm keeping a more upright chest position, allowing my knee to come forward. And then my knee is always in line with that second toe. So if you want to practice a few side-to-side movement just to get the coordination of the movement, when I'm here, there's about 70% of the load on this leg, and then the outstretched leg, there's still a little bit of weight, it's still being based, maybe about 20 to 30%. So now from here, I'll do the figure 8, stand up, counterbalance, and there's my uppercut. I'll pass through the legs, counterbalance, uppercut. Right now I'm still going to be looking straight ahead, working that coordination element. Once again, as I base here, I'm leaning away and stopping the kettlebell with the opposite hand. Fantastic lateral movement, integrating the upper body and the lower body. There's definitely a coordination element to this movement, which is also why I love it. Once you've laid that down, shake it out, shake it out. The final movement, progression number 4, is the full countered sling shot. So for this, once we pass through, one of the big techniques and tips I can give you is to follow the kettlebell with the head and the eyes. When we follow the kettlebell with the head and the eyes, we're going to get that extra additional rotation. Wherever the head and the eyes go, the body will follow. So once I pass the kettlebell through, I'm going to keep this arm slingshotted away, and I'm even going to go a little bit more on the range of motion. follow my head and eyes, pretty much stopping to where my head is facing about 90 degrees. Then I'll pass, go to the opposite side. So from here, I've got my nice stable base, my spine is straight, pass. Now, where I stop the kettlebell is somewhere around shoulder level. You can certainly practice different heights, hitting here, hitting slightly above the shoulder to practice different ranges. But for me, I tend to like right around the shoulder for most of my reps and then pausing it here. And you know, I have to be honest, where I came up with this exercise was, of course, I've seen plenty of people doing figure eights, doing uppercuts, and even like reverse lunge to uppercuts or slingshots. But I've never seen this counterbalance movement where you have to lean your body away, use your body to redirect the load, and then incorporate that rotational element. Because, to be honest, I have to give a lot of credit to the Bulgarian bag. The tool's right behind me, and what I learned from the inventor of that tool, Coach Ivan Ivanov. Now, this movement was really an integration and an inspiration from the open arm side-to-side swing. Now, the open arm side-to-side swing, you're going to see a similar lower body counterbalance. You're also going to see that torso rotation and the head following the bag. Now, the important thing to note on that type of movement is you'll see the heels are always down, just like in the Kettlebell Countered Sling Shot as well. The reason why the heels are down is because if I keep my heels anchored, then I'm going to create more movement from the upper body in the oblique. So more rotation up above as opposed to turning over the heel. So I have to give a lot of credit to the Bulgarian bag, and that counterbalance open arm side-to-side swing with head and torso rotation is a key element when it relates to the spin. You have to use that element when you're performing Bulgarian bag spins, which is one of the most iconic, foundational, and best movements that you perform with the bag. And so that tool was designed for rotation. It was designed and developed for wrestlers, explosive rotational movements. And so thanks to that tool and my experience with that tool and coaching from Coach Ivanov, I've really been able to hone in and bring that into the kettlebell, which is also why I love this movement so much. If you want to get more information on the kettlebell, maybe potentially hosting a workshop in your area, or you want to get certified in Bulgarian bag training, definitely hit me up. Check out my website, mikesalemi.io. You'll get to see the events and where I'm at. But once again, I really highly encourage you to try this exercise. It's a fantastic integrated movement. It's working coordination. It's working lateral movement. It's also working front to back movement, the sagittal plane. It's working rotational movement. Again, it doesn't have that complicated element of hand insertion that a lot of people have difficulty with when they're performing rotational movements with the kettlebell. Truly, truly one of my favorite movements. If you like this video, please like, comment, and share. I would love to know if you're using this exercise. I'd love to see you doing it as well. Tag me on Instagram, mike.salemi, and love to see you perform it. If you want to see more videos like this, definitely comment below. Let me know what movement you're having difficulty with or you would love a tutorial on, and I'll get right to it. I wish you happy lifting and have a great day.